Here to help us break down the civil unrest and what it means moving ahead is Boris Epshteyn, a strategic advisor for coalitions for the 2020 Trump campaign. So, Boris, when we look at this unrest that's taken place over the past couple of weeks, it seems like Americans are starting to get the idea that maybe they're alone in some of this unrest. I mean, that's what the McCloskeys said last night when Mark McCloskey was interviewed on Tucker Carlson as well as CNN with Chris Cuomo. Is things like the police and the Second Amendment going to be a bigger issue going into November?
Alex, good to be with you as always. Law and order is absolutely a major issue for Americans. We have seen the looting and the rioting going on in Seattle. We've seen it going on in Portland. We've seen it going on in Minneapolis. There's a huge problem. In New York, Mayor de Blasio wants to cut $1 billion off the New York City Police Department budget. Murders are up, shootings are up 25% year over year in New York in the last month. So there's a huge problem going on. The American people know that Donald Trump is what stands between America and chaos.
And Boris, I think it's also an interesting point because a lot of people were talking about the political affiliation of this family last night. And really, when you look it up, there isn't too much loyalty going either way. They seem to be independent voters who have donated to Democrats on the state and local level. They donated to President Trump in 2016. But I think there's something to be said that when they view the protest through whatever media outlet that they're going through at the time being, they believe to some degree that they had a reason to be fearful for their life, hence why they did come out with weapons in that time. So do you think that the media coverage of this is playing a difference in the way that people are perceiving these protests and could have implications on the 2020 election?
Well, Alex, that's a great question. If you look at the video of the McCloskeys, if you listen to what those quote unquote protesters, the mob is saying to these people, it is not friendly. It is absolutely terrorizing statements. It is threats, and they are on their private property. So while the media is trying to turn these people into somehow enemies of good, right, or to really demonize them, that's not the truth. The truth is that these are two Americans who wanted to protect themselves, to protect their private property, and did so well within federal and Missouri state law. To your broader question in terms of the media, there's no doubt. If you look at the mainstream media overall, they've tried to call these protests overall, safe, overall peaceful. And now it was wild. I mean, there's shots literally of reporters saying these are peaceful protests while there's things burning in the background that happened to Ali Velshi on MSNBC. Reporters, I believe on CNN, were saying, oh, this is peaceful, and then got attacked several seconds later. Andrea Mitchell lived through that as well. She was at the area in Washington, D.C., where there was a lot of protesters, and somebody attacked her. What was her first response? Where's the police? So the media is absolutely trying to skew the issue against regular law and order abiding Americans and toward the looters and the rioters.
And even one of our reporters just this past Friday, after work, he went and he was covering the protest in Lincoln Park. And a couple minutes go by and people start pushing him out, pouring water on him, things of that nature, merely because of the fact that he was a reporter. So I don't think it's necessarily a difference of left or right or anything like that, because you just named a lot of reporters from left-wing networks. We could bring up Leland Vittert as well from Fox News, who was attacked. It's something, too, that is representative in these protests. And it's not just the idea of left versus right. This is about a transformation in this country. It's hence why we're seeing, for example, statues come under fire, why people are calling for statues of not only Confederate monuments, but Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, who was defaced just the other day, things of this nature. And so I think that the Republican Party wants to make this issue a contrast between what Joe Biden represents and what President Trump represents. Do you think that this is going to be that contrast of the reformative, far-left socialist lawmakers and the Republican Party who wants to kind of bring law and order back to this country?
No question, Alex. Joe Biden has no strength. He has no stamina. I mean, look at that event yesterday. That wasn't a press conference. Somebody said that was like a T-ball with a beach ball. It was absolutely pathetic. So the question is, who will be running the country? And it seems that Joe Biden is letting the far left, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Beto O'Rourke, are his most strong advisors, are his closest advisors. So that's who will be running the country. So there's no doubt that the contrast is between the far left that Joe Biden represents and the strength of America, law and order, rocket ship economic recovery of Donald Trump.
Yeah, and I think you're right, and it's going to be a decision that voters have to make for themselves because at this point, the issues are basically drawing the two parallels themselves. I mean, you look at what's happening right now, you either have to pick the side of what's going on the far left, or you have to pick the idea of what the Republican Party is putting out there. And I think the issues really speak for themselves, but you did do a great job laying them out for us and our viewers as well. Boris Epshteyn, always a pleasure having you on. Thanks for being with us.